Hi, Nina Zapala here. This is a place to talk about spiritual personality typing. I'm taking a break from the theme of my solo travel series. I'll get back to that next week, or maybe not. I'm an ENTP, but it'll be something interesting. But this week, I am talking about Mellissa McCarthy. You have to be familiar with her. She's, really iconic in the world of comedy, television series, Mike and Molly. And she has just produced a Netflix number 10 already. It's only been out since the 15th. And it's entitled God's Favorite Idiot. It's so much in my vibe, I had to talk about it. And I love her. I just think she is so authentic. And it's not like she's a celebrity, she's beautiful. She's just, it's none of that. I'm not really into that. I've worked with celebrities before. And I've never had that, I don't know. Just never had that inkling to worship them. Again, it's my personality type. Anyhow, beyond that. So I was like, I'm going to investigate her personality type because there's something that draws me to her. And I was like, what makes me like her so much? And I don't even know her. What about her persona is so attractive that I'm just like, I welcome her work all the time. And so like, yeah, it was good. It's like always like, oh my God, like Bridesmaids, watch that. I don't want to tell you how many times, it's embarrassing, but and she did another one too. It was hysterical. I forget the name of it, but I've watched that one too. Like she's done so many great movies. Her and Sandra Bullock was a good one too. But there's something just so real about her. And what I like about her, she just doesn't give a crap. Like she's just like, they're like, oh, you lost this weight, you gained this weight. She does things for herself. She really does. And I have to admire her for that. Because she has not been sucked into the vortex of that Hollywood-esque persona that's so prevalent. I think that's why maybe when I said I worked with celebrities, I was just like, okay, who are you though? Like, it's like, anyway, and there's some cool, I've met some cool celebrities. A lot has to do with my travel career and then, being at luxury resorts and so forth. Anyhow, beyond that. So I really want to start showing everyone, because I want to start teaching this. I need to get my shit together. Hello. I'm a one man show. So, but I really want to start teaching this. So I went into kind of specific details of like really comparing traditional personality typing with spiritual personality typing. So when you read the blog, you're going to see there are two totally different takes on personality typing. One's not wrong or better, they're just different. I'm trying to introduce a different perspective. I'm not saying mine is right. I'm not saying another is wrong. I'm just saying I found in studying this under the tutelage of a spiritual psychologist that I found the soul of psychology was missing. And lo and behold, when I was doing my research for my book, I did find, I think it was in the early 1900s, they did take the word soul out of there. It was like soul is like, it's demonic. You can't, that's too quackery. It all has to be scientific now. And I'm like, well, that's ridiculous. That's not who we are. First of all, we're not quackery, and we're not always scientific and logical, because we have these two aspects to ourselves, right? We have our personality, our humanness, and our beingness, the non-physical aspects. So how can you take the soul out of it? We all have a soul. How can you take that away? But that's just what that old patriarchal existence that we have been living in for centuries, that's what it does. It just wants to strip us, And one of the things I think is so cool is that now we're all starting to wake up to this idea that, we are extremely individualistic. We have a soul design which no one else has. And I think Mellissa McCarthy embodies that to a T. Like, her persona and who she is, from a traditional standpoint, mirrors pretty much who she is. It really does. But then I look at her from a more spiritual standpoint, and you get like this totally different perspective of her. I feel that you do. I hope you do as you read through the blog. But it's a totally different perspective. I'm really trying to step away from oversimplifying personality types. I know, you guys, I know we want this easy. I know we want this quick. We want to get her done, learn who we are so we can move on. But we're never going to do that. Our life's journey is peeling away the layers of who we are so we can evolve our soul. You know, our soul is in touch with the divine, or the all that is, the divine intelligence, God, whatever you want to say. It's that universal energy source that creates cosmos. So our soul is in touch with that energy. So yeah, let's take the soul out of psychology. Okay. I mean, really? Anywho, let's not go down that thing because I'll get on my soapbox. And this video would end up being very long. But so what we want to really do here is we want to start looking at personality type from beyond just the logical or so the scientific way. And what's happened is, I believe it started out with the premise of being more logical. I know because Carl Jung wrote, I think it was the personal psychology. I forget the name. It's a really big, thick white book that I've gotten through most of it. It was really hard to read. I mean, it's very complicated. It's just like you got to read and read and read, especially me. And so what Myers-Briggs was trying to do is just simplify this stuff. Well, we've taken that to a whole new level. And with our society, it's sound bites, what sounds good. And I used to do it. I was in PR. Let's write like a clickable headline so they'll open the press release so journalists will come and visit. I've been doing it for decades. I know what it's about. But unfortunately, when it comes to your personality type, when you simplify or stereotype, it's such a complex issue. We are complex, multi-dimensional beings that it becomes very dangerous and very hurtful and detrimental to a lot of people. I mean, just Google personality typing, and all those 4x4 grids come up, and they have some little snappy thing in them. Well, it can't be. You cannot, in your entirety, be explained by 3 to 5 words. It's just not a reality. So I want you to start becoming very aware of this, because some people will take a test, and I apply the 80-20% rule to the standardized test, like the Myers-Briggs indicator, that comes from the Institute. Those are pretty reliable, but there's still a 20% chance that it's wrong. And so what happens is, first off, you take a test and it could be wrong, and then you type yourself your whole life with this, which is, oh no. And then you're looking at these little grids and it's like, oh no, right? And then we're wondering like, I don't understand myself. Well, there's a lot of reasons why. This stuff just doesn't fall off the tree one day and hit in your head and you go, oh wow, this is great. No, it's not how this happens. Right? So that's why I kind of want to introduce this more spiritual take on it. I want to kind of get us away from all this oversimplification. The stereotyping, I've even seen things. I was like, what? When I started doing this, I was shocked. I even have seen posts that have said like one type's better than another, or one type has more value. I'm like, what? Carl Jung would be crawling, like bawling in his grave if he ever heard that, because that's really not true. Okay, so I just want you guys to be mindful of that when you're searching online, when you're looking at personality typing. If you're an enthusiast like me, please take what you read and then follow your heart. Does it feel good? It feels good? Go for it. If it doesn't, let it go. But you have to know yourself too really well to have that work. You have to know your heart center. That's why there's a soul. That's why there's a spiritual component to everything I do with personality typing. So let's get into McCarthy, which I hope you guys are enjoying this Netflix thing. It is so freaking funny. I mean, everybody needs a good laugh, and she's always the perfect person to go to. But as I said before, I'm sorry, I'm just looking at my computer real quick. Why I'm so attracted to her, it's like she is so in vibe with her true self, her authentic self. She's so in touch with her higher self. She just is. It's like so evident. It's like, well, why does everything she touched turn to gold? Because she is so into herself. She knows. She's experiencing her life through her soul self, which then is expressed through the personality and experienced in your personal reality. I don't know if I could say that again the same way, but I'll try. So what she's doing is she's so connected into her higher self, which is expressed through her personality type, and then she experiences it through her personal reality. So she's just like, because when you start co-creating with all that is, the person that's, the energy, I shouldn't say the person, I'm being sarcastic. The energy that creates cosmos, big things are going to show up in your life. I mean, you're going to start creating from a point you're like, damn, I did that. I mean, look at all the stuff she does. She's a producer, she's an actor, she's a comedian, she's a designer. She does a lot of stuff, and she does it well. And she doesn't let anybody stop her. So you just got to love her verve. It's so good. So this is what I found to be so interesting. As they talk about her personality type, which is, by the way, can you guess? Can you guess? She's an ESFP, which is, it's one of those personality types that is stereotyped a lot. It truly is. But when you're around them, they're joy. They're bottles of joy. They're fun. They're happy. They're just centered. They're grounded. They just want to experience. They want to have fun. They want laughter. They like goofy things. Like I read one of her articles when I was doing research for this, and it said, I like when my kids come in and moon me. I laugh my ass off. I think it's hysterical. Some types wouldn't find that funny. I don't know if I'd find that funny. That's not really my type. But it's everything in life. She just sees the playfulness in it, the joy in it, right? So, but when I went in there and started looking at personality types, so her type, she is extroverted sensing, which when I look from a traditional standpoint, this is what they're saying. People are grounded in reality who prefer to deal with real life problems rather than contemplating ideas. There's truth to that. And then feeling. When you have a feeling trait, she has an introverted feeling trait. It is feelings. She will make decisions based on her own feelings and somebody else. She'll consider somebody else's feelings. So I'm down with that. Perceiving, flexible, open-minded, novelty, spontaneity. These guys are big in spontaneity. They love spontaneity. And then this is what's kind of alarms me a little bit. So typologists, if you go just Google an ESFP, and I'm sure you'll find more. I just found the ones. I just wrote the ones the top ones. So they're typed as an entertainer, a performer, a partier, ambassador. So when you start looking at those things, some of that's, yes, relevant, but also, with words, we kind of start assigning roles to them, And I know Carl Jung would not have ever used the word partier, just when he used that word, because that's not the essence of who she is. It's not the essence. She's not an entertainer at her essence. That's what she does in the world. She's so much more. Like, all those titles are kind of superficial, and I will be the first one. I'm going to call myself out on this. I'm going to use titles in my travel book, and the only reason I'm using titles is to help you get the connection, and I think that's what they want to do here too, so I could see it. That's why. But I'm just, like, some of them, I'm just calling it out because Denzel Washington is this type. So is Bill Clinton. So is Ronald Reagan. So is Pink. So is Katy Perry. So is Nicki Minaj. All these people, yes. And it kind of stereotypes that all back into entertainer, but they're really not. Look at how different they all really are. So when you use that one word to categorize people, it starts the biased thinking, the stereotyping. That's what I'm trying to get us away from. So that's why I'm trying to make this point. I hope that makes sense to you. So, and honestly, and this is interesting. This is interesting. So I went to the American the Personality Type Institute, and this type makes up 8.2% of the American population, which is pretty high number actually. And it's the third most frequent type among women. That's interesting, isn't it? Very interesting. Kind of makes sense though, with the feeling, sensing and feeling. It's just, I know we don't want to stereotype, but it's innate to who we are. We can't change that. Have you ever heard of female energy? Well, female energy is strong. Male energy is strong. And I'm not going to sit there and water down anything. I don't care what your sexual orientation is. It has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with your energy. So, all right, let me walk out of that because I don't want to go there. So let me just give you a broad overview. This is the broad overview. Outgoing, fun-loving, optimistic, all true. Free-spirited, spontaneous, great with people. I kind of said that. This is kind of interesting too. And these types really sincerely want to find the best in others. They do like being the center of attention. But in a group dynamic, if they're tasked with something, they will find the best and bring that out. It's funny though, in the group dynamic, they will go for that individual. That's that FI. Their auxiliary, or what I call that harmonious secondary trait that this personality type has. That's what makes that so interesting, right? And then they're optimistic, and somebody that's that optimistic and is out there, that's gregarious, it's fun and spontaneous and likes prankster stuff and all, it's gonna be kind of realistic that they're not really into conflict. It's not their vibe, right? But see, what happens is, and then, okay, well, we're going to get into that in a minute. So then, their strengths, that they're cheerful, fun to be around, obviously, bold, supportive, positive, all things that make sense for this type, right? And then a weakness, you'll see, and I hate that when they say weaknesses, because I think somebody says, oh, you have weaknesses in your personality type. I'm like, oh, you mean places for spiritual growth and personal growth? Because that's what that is. Well, did you see that? That was a big wasp or hornet. But so they're easily bored, don't like conflict, which I was alluding to. They're sensitive, and they net long-term focus. Oh, they neglect, excuse me. So what I'm saying here is like people with that nature, that P in you. I have a P. I'm a shit-ass focuser. It's not in our nature. So that's something we can learn to be. I'm not saying be it all the time, but when we have to focus, we need to figure out how we can focus. We got to train ourselves to learn how to focus, right? I'm not saying ignore your trait. I'm just saying augment it. Spiritual growth, right? You have to augment your trait because you have to learn to focus. I know, it's very hard for me, and it's obviously hard for her. So, and I think too, if love relationships. Now, this is funny, and it kind of goes into the weaknesses. So, for them, they love life. They love life. That's just who they are. And so naturally, if they love life, they're going to love being in love. It's part of life. So it just flows into their relationships. And when you start getting into your type, you're going to see how everything just flows into relationships. whether it's a love relationship, a family dynamic, a work relationship, a friendship. It just flows into it. Because personality type is invasive into your life. You know, it's exactly what you need to support your soul's mission here on earth. So, of course, it's going to be that, you know? So that's why I think it's funny when they talk about her, they're like, well, she loves being in love, but, you know, she doesn't like long-term commitments, and she doesn't want to forecast in the future, and she gets bored easily if the relationships aren't fun and exciting. And so I'm going to go back and talk about that. So that's what the pundits, like if you go to a lot of sites, that's what they're saying. So if it was me and I'm reading that, I'm like, dang, what do you mean I can't commit? I mean, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? I can't commit. So everybody I know is in a committed relationship. Why can't I do that? Why can't I think in the future and plan some stuff out? So do you see how this old paradigm kind of makes you feel like lesser than? Or you're not fitting in? Or you don't belong? That's kind of what this does. That's why I'm trying to say, step back from it and realize who you are first. Because if you're looking externally for somebody to explain who you are to you, and especially in the matrix of conditioning, of societal conditioning, and that's something you have to be very, very, very aware of. And that's a dangerous place to be. So please be aware of that. And even I'm going to be teaching, I'm going to be guiding you. You know? I'm going to be guiding you. I want to guide you into yourself. I don't want to tell you, oh, you should be this. You should do this. That's bullshit. I don't want to do it. I'm not your parent. You've had enough of that conditioning. You don't need any more of that. You need a guide. And all a guide does is like, oh, here's the path. Here's the best way. And they just give you tools to open and that's what I want to do. I want to give you tools to open yourself up. Okay? So this whole relationship thing about, you know, how this is situated too on the web, and you can go to go Google it. And you'll see what I'm saying is pretty much on par with what you're going to get. That's what you're going to get served. I know. So I kind of touched on this a little bit, but, you know, so I agree, because what I'm doing is very foundational. It's very interwoven with personality type. But I just use that as like a foundational place to start. It's like a starting point for me. Because I don't believe that all ESFPs should be called the entertainer or the performer or the partier or the ambassador. You're one unique soul design of like 7 billion people, or whatever the population is. Just know you're 1 in a million. How's that? So how can we be pigeonholed into these names of who we are? Well, we need to start elevating our thoughts beyond that. Create the culture of you, whatever you want to be. Now, it's going to be predictive from your personality type. That's why you have to know it. But you don't have to go by the dogma and all this that's been conditioned into us since we've been, 2? It just is. I'm not blaming anybody, because that's what everyone else was conditioned into it too. We're just starting to wake up that all this stuff's bullshit. It's all bullshit. So anyway, enough of my ranting. So here's how I see her. I mean, and I'm just going to kind of capsulate this, because I don't want to get all into it, because I'd like you to just kind of sit and read the blog, because I think if you sit and maybe you take some notes and think about yourself, it's really important to do that. But I do agree that these types have this dynamic aura of positive energy. And not only does it feed the physical world, those who they encounter, it feeds their soul. It feeds their mind, their psychological beingness, their soul, the non-physical aspect of themselves. They really live in that space. So that's much different, I believe, when it's defined in that way, as opposed to, oh yeah, they're partiers, or they're happy-go-lucky, they're the life of the party, they're entertainers. Well, that's all superficial stuff. But if you really get to the essence of them, they are joy-filled beings. And can you see why it'd be so easy for Mellissa McCarthy just to create great comedy? Because she's full of joy. She's full of laughter. She gets it from a soul place, not from some superficial description or some oversimplified, 3-letter words. I'm the entertainer. No, she gets it from deep within her. That's why she just keeps on creating these hit after hit after hit, and she shows up herself. She's always showing up as herself. And people just love that. Can you see like that? So the descriptions are just like, oh, this comes from a place from within. I want you to start seeing personality type from the inside out. Because work starts from within first and comes out. I hope that makes sense. Oh yeah, and this is funny, and this is why I go to this, because now she's got a dominant trait is extroverted sensing. I think that is a true sensing trait. It's extroverted sensing. Introverted sensing is a little bit different in that it is more conventional, more traditional. It's still sensing, but it senses from memories. It senses from past experiences, and what I mean from that, it takes the impressions that it's experienced and puts it in today's perspective. So it's totally different. So even if you say you're a sensing type, yeah, they're opposing. They're kind of not opposing, because it's both sensing. It's all sensing in nature. I don't know if that posing is the right word, but let's just say it's very differing. So somebody with an extroverted sensing trait, and this is where they get this is where these little cliche descriptors come up from, because she does get the most out of life. And you can see it. I mean, she's such a happy person, and that itself is kind of stereotypical, but she's just joy-filled. She just has this joy de vivre about her, that she's just like loving life, man. She's loving it, right? And I think that's why they're thought of as, they're naturally relaxed, their happy-go-lucky attitude, their desire for spontaneity. But from a spiritual perspective, sorry, I'm getting bit up. From a spiritual perspective, I think it's interesting to see this a little bit deeper. So spiritually, why this person shows up like this is because they have such a zen relationship with the physical world. They are so connected to the physical world through this sensing trait. It becomes zen-like. They see the magic. They wonder at the marvels of it all. They see the beauty. So others that don't really have this trait don't get that. They just don't understand as much as this person does, because this person is totally into it. They're totally inspired by the environment of the physical world. And they really have, and this creates this aesthetic aspect to them. They see the miracles in the external world, where some types will only see the bad stuff, the dark side of it. This is not this personality type. It goes so much deeper than, oh, she's a happy-go-lucky person. She didn't, no. This is on a soul design level. It's very introspective. And the thing about when your dominant personality trait, which I call your essential self, and in this case for her, it's extroverted sensing, comes to you so naturally, you kind of walk over it. It's kind of like driving down the street the same way every day. You stop seeing the flowers, stop seeing the trees, You stop witnessing. You stop observing. And that's a lot of times what we do with our personality type. And things become routine and sometimes biased because we're just like, oh no, I already know that. Do you? Have you taken the time to know that? See, that's why I'm saying she because I'm talking about Mellissa, but that's why a lot of times people with this trait, it's so stereotyped into, oh yeah, they're the entertainer, they're a performer, they like to be the center of attention. Well, that's not the whole truth at all. It's just not. So I thought that was something interesting, and I put more about that on the blog. And so they're, I gotta go back and look at that, make sure I did that right. But their auxiliary trait is introverted feeling. We talked about this feeling trait. But just from making decisions about using your feelings, yeah, that's true. But this trait brings a very individualistic, a very focused nature to it. And that ESFPs, because of this trait, they love the interactions with individuals. They love that. And even though they're the life of the party and everyone's around them, they really like the individualistic, easy for me to say, reactions with people. It really brings a lot of enjoyment to them and to the other person, obviously, because they're vibing with these high energy beings. And so what happens is they'll come away from that exchange just like full of heart-centered love, like they have this that grows their heart center. It just expands that because they've just felt that resonance between them and the other person, and they're very passionate. They have deep values, and so they love that exchange, that one-to-one exchange. And you don't even get that if you're sitting there talking to this person like as a partier or an entertainer or a performer. You don't get that. You're not getting that. So we have to be very careful of how we look at this and not just be so quick to jump into what's been said. We're starting to find out that a lot of things that we've been taught are totally wrong. And I was shocked when I found out that, gosh, they took the soul. They actually took the word soul out of the psychology of personalities. I'm like, what? So we're starting to see that all these things are crumbling. But if we look at it, even look at it from this new perspective, right? It's like, wow, okay, this isn't scary. It's just a deeper way of looking at yourself. It's really seeing how cool you really are beyond all this three-letter soundbite or a little soundbite or a little headline tag. So it's a really good place to be, to fill yourself up from the inside out. It's very interesting. Now, I got to talk into this too. We talked about the relationship aspect of it. Like I said, if you're reading this about the relationship, you're like, what? Really? I can't. Oh my God. This is horrible for me. I'm never going to have a successful relationship. I can't commit. I don't want to look at the future. I get bored easily. If I'm not in full, throttle fun, a lot of it's true. But that's taken from a very fear-based, conceptual, quick look. At a glance. It's like at a glance. Look at who you are. It's not necessarily the truth. Some aspects are probably true. Some things you're going to have to work on. We're going to have to work on stuff. You're not going to show up in life as perfect. You're never perfect. You just have to be at peace with who you are. But in this case, when you start reading that stuff, it's like, man, I don't like that. I would be. I'd be like, damn. I read some of the stuff of myself, and I'm like, damn. And then I go through the spiritual stuff, I'm like, oh, I get it now. So with her, I'm going to explain this to you. So, Melissa's been married now. I think she's been in the same relationship, for close to 22 years with the same guy, her husband. Actually, that's in this show with her, and I forget his name. not important right this second. But, so she's just broken through the wall of every stereotypical phrase or paragraph or summation that you've read about this type in relationships. She's just proven my point. That the words you read online a lot of times are not true. They're not true for you. Sometimes they're going to be true, especially if you're in fear, especially if you haven't matured yet, especially if you're not looking at your persona in a multi-dimensional way. Light, shadow, human beingness, ego from the perspective of true self-ego, which you need, you know, and the shadow side of your ego. That's how you learn. That's never going to leave you. People go, oh, you need to get rid of the ego. I'm like, well, you know, and I've bounced around on that. But I've come to a place now, it's like, no, you can't get rid of your ego. It helps us navigate life here on earth. We have an ego for a reason. The divine intelligence is not random. Is not random. Your personality type was specifically given or chosen by you to fulfill your soul's destiny here on earth. That's my belief. Take what you want, leave the rest. But it's really important you start understanding that you're a physical and non-physical being. You're multidimensional on a lot of levels. So we're not just this logical mind walking along, doing our thing. You know, that's not what we do. You know? And for a lot of people, that's what we've been trained to think like that. We've been trained to think the mind is the key to everything. It's not. The mind is a servant to the soul. Which makes sense, because the soul's already connected to divine intelligence. The mind is usually connected to the fear-based crap that's out in the world. The conditioning, the dogma, the societal stuff that we're expected to do and be and become, which we're finding out that doesn't work either. Things are crumbling, which is really exciting. It's exciting. I know it's scary. It's the unknown. But if you really know yourself, you're going to walk through this with a lot more grace, a lot more power, and you're going to be able to help a lot more people. I'm just telling you. That's really important. So, what if, let's just give you an example. So this whole relationship thing, romantic relationship, any relationship you're in. So what if you, as a mature adult, with your partner, who's another hopefully mature adult, I don't know, I've had a little issues with those myself, but anyway, we'll skip that too. But what if you just say, you know what, I don't know if I want to commit this long term. Are you okay with taking this day by day? Or, you know I really love you. You know, I don't want this to change. But I have some parameters, and I want to explain to you that when I feel really restricted and really controlled, and my spontaneity is shut down, I don't do well in relationships. And then honestly, I don't want to hear your conflicts, because I don't do well with that. So, yes, these are things you're going to have to work through. But if you're really honest and open, and you're having these conscious dialogues, carefulness in conversation always, but if you have these honest dialogues, you and your partner create the relationship. It's nobody's business how the hell you live your relationship. I don't care. It's no one else's damn business. It's not the churches. It's not your parents. It's not what society expects. It's not a thing on your tax write-off. If you're married, you did this. It's another forced freaking thing. It's like, are you kidding me? Leave me alone. Let me just be. Let me be with my partner the way I want to be, so we can both live in the most joy we can possibly create for each other. Why don't we just go that way? What is so hard to believe about that? But most of us don't do that. I include myself. This has been a long journey of learning for me. This is why I can share these thoughts with you, because I've been through it all. And it hasn't been fun, let me tell you. But it is fun on the other side. So you got to go to the shitty to get to the pretty. Used to. It's the thing. It's the thing. So, you know, I want you to start seeing this. And I hope that I explain this really good. And I'm going on, so I don't like to keep you any more than 30 minutes because I know we're busy. But this is really important stuff. This is the stuff you need to be working on now. This is really the important stuff. I really want you to get this. So, can you see how different my dialogue is from spiritual typing? And I didn't go real deep into the patriarchal career typology because it's everywhere. There's like thousands and thousands of pages of that. I don't need to get into that. I don't really want to talk about your strengths and your weaknesses, who you are in your relationship. I don't really want to talk about that from a patriarchal standpoint. It's just been done. I don't even like the energy of it. To me, it's a very closed framework. When you start going from a spiritual aspect of personality typing, you have to start realizing, and this Mellissa McCarthy is definitely doing this. You have to start realizing that you start creating with the co-creator of all, the all that is. That's the place you want to be creating. And you need your thinking perspective. You need your feeling. We need all of our logical, personal humanness to do all that. But it's got to be healthy. It doesn't have to be driven by an ego that's fear-induced. It's got to be driven by an ego that has opened itself up to its true self. So it knows how to power through this human existence. And just how we're set up. And to me, and I've been studying this for a while, so this is a very practical and logical way to start getting centered in yourself, to really understand yourself from the inside out. Nothing is created long-term and such great joy and magic and the miracles from the outside world that you can do on the inside out. I mean, example after example after example. Oh, I'm a millionaire. I made this money, but I'm not unhappy. I talked to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of travelers. They're multimillionaires, and they're sitting there bitching about the sheets. I'm like, really? That's what you're bitching at? That's what you're bitching about? And I was in PR, so of course I didn't say that. I had to play nice with the millionaires, which was fine. I'm not getting on them, but I'm just saying what we're told to go to achieve, again, that's a false direction. Your direction in life starts from the inside and goes out. And I know it's cliche, but it's the truth. And you better start understanding your personality, because that's where your foundation is. Because once you understand your personality, you can really get into tune with your spiritual self and do really cool spiritual practices to keep yourself fully elevated all the time. And when your personality starts triggering you, you're like, that's my essential self getting unbalanced. It thinks it knows everything, or whatever it's going to do. Like Mellissa McCarthy. She'll run without end if she's unhealthy. She'll keep on going and going and going and going and doing and doing and doing and doing. Right? And she'll never spend time with that individual where she gets the greatest joy out of her life. She won't, because she's too busy doing. She doesn't take time to stop and consider that. And that's what really fills her up. The going and doing does too. But only when it's taken back to be shared with another individual. Does that bring her greatest joy? So if you have questions, please leave a question in the comment. If you haven't already liked, which you probably haven't, because I have 18 subscribers. I'm working on it. So, like, subscribe, share, do all that fun stuff. Because I really like doing these videos. And I think as we get into, as time keeps on going by, we're going to start seeing how important the soul's role and personality type really is. It's essential to get to know who you are. To get to know who you are and why you do what you do. It's essential. I appreciate you all. I'm honored if you've listened to me. It makes my heart sing, right? And I thank you for even just giving me the time and letting me share what I'm so excited about to share. And if I can wake one person up, I'm excited, because as Abraham Hicks says, one person that's awoke is more powerful than a million who aren't. So be that person. Who do you want to be? Be the awoke person. You can be the awoke millionaire. You can be the awoke mom. You can be the awoke car mechanic. You can be the awoke spiritual teacher. I don't care what it is. Be the awoke one. Be the light for a million people that aren't. We need that right now. Way more than anything else. Way more. So, hope you guys are enjoying your summer. It's blazing hot as hell here. It's the summer. You know, it's actually not that bad today. It's supposed to be like 100 and some degrees. I think it's like 95, but I'm not that hot for some strange reason. Anywho, enough about the weather. Thank you all so much. I'll see you back here next week. And please leave a comment. Go read the blog. You know, you can find me, Nina Zapala, anywhere. Pinterest, Instagram, Medium, my blog. I take questions on Quora if you want. You know, I'm not really on Facebook. I have a presence there, but I'm never there. I can't deal with the dynamics of Facebook. It's just too much. But I really, please contact me, you know. And I do sessions. If you really want to get into who you are from a spiritual perspective, I do that. And I do travel sessions too. So if you want to start with something fun, like I look in and go, okay, this is how your personality shows up unpacked on travel when you're traveling. And in fact, I had a friend of mine just called me about that. She's like, God, Nina, we need you on vacation. It was a generational trip. I'm like, that's a tough one. But anyhow, you guys, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your week. Happy summer. If you're traveling, be safe. Just enjoy the moments. That's what we got. Bye for now. Nina.